What's good, everybody? How's everyone doing? I hope you're all doing good and well. Um, I'm making this video today just to bring a little education and awareness to how things um, operate. Because, a lot of you are left in the dark as far as um, the true aspects of this life that we live. Um, Today's message is I'm gonna label it "Are you a whore?" Um, and that's just it, guys. I mean, are you a whore? Do you have a pimp? Um, I got a couple letters from the city of Lima, and one of them was from the police department because I put in a complaint over an unlawful arrest. And they sent me a letter stating that my complaint was sustained, that, the officer had no reason to even stop me, let alone, steal my property and kidnap me for, 3 hours while he, tried to violate my Fourth Amendment right, which I was not going to help him do. But that's besides the point. That's a whole nother day. So because I got that letter, I started a federal lawsuit on this officer and the police department over this. And because anytime you violate somebody's rights, man, when you swear an oath to uphold and protect those people's rights and you do the exact opposite, you don't deserve to be in any position of power. I mean, we the people have delegated a limited authority. Okay. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. Okay, so the second letter I got was from the city of Lima, and it was the tax department, right? So the tax department sent me a letter here, and I'll read it for you. I got it here. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. It says, so it's in all block letters. Okay, so block letters are a corporate status. Okay, they're addressing it to the trust, Michael D. Zisler. Okay, says, "Dear Lima taxpayer, your home at the above address is inside this city, the Lima city limits, and your employer, Red Hawk Heating and Plumbing, did not withhold Lima City tax. Therefore, it will be necessary for you to file a Lima City income tax return. In order to properly file this form, you will need to provide a copy of your 2021 federal income tax return along with all of the applicable supporting schedules and W-2 forms. If you filed a joint federal tax return, your spouse's information is also required. If you have any questions regarding this matter, please do not hesitate to contact our office at," okay, and that's sincerely Tom Nartker. So this is a contract offer. Anytime these entities send you a presentment, it is an offer, a contract offer. And you do not have to contract with these people. But if you do not respond to their presentment within like 10 days, I think it is, you have acquiesced into accepting the terms in whatever that presentment has stated. Okay? So I responded because I personally feel that income tax is not right. It's fraud. And, I mean, am I a whore and the government is the pimp, where I go provide a service and then I have to give a cut to my pimp? I mean, that's essentially what's happening here. It's no different than a pimp whore relationship, and that's just as immoral. So I sent a response. I said, "Attention, Compliance Division of the Income Tax Department. Notice, exempt from levy. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. The reason I put this here is because no matter where it goes in that department, it's as if I sent it to the right person. Okay? So, so there's no, them making up some story about, oh, we didn't receive it, you sent it to the wrong person. Their presentment is sustained. Basically screwing you out of whatever. So I said, Dear Tom Narker, I am confused regarding a letter that was delivered by USPS from your office. There must be a mistake on the part of your agency. The letterhead was addressed to my legal fiction. A person is your legal fiction. It's a corporate entity. That is a person. And a person isn't. A natural person is the living man, yourself. But a regular person is a fiction. It's the birth certificate that the state had created. And that's because they're a corporation. Corporations can only deal with corporations. So they created a trust, a corporate trust, out of your name, right? And your parents did this. It's a Sestake trust is what it is. Okay, so the letterhead was addressed to my legal fiction, but the letter itself was addressed to I'm a taxpayer. I am not. I do not understand your claim, as I am an unfranchised, common law free man. I'm not a participant in any taunting schemes of limited liability and a joint venture for profit with an insurable interest requiring me to participate in these corporate Ponzi schemes. I can only assume that you believe that I would be a taxpayer, which in fact I am not. Why does your agency feel that when a man's hard manual labor is compensated for, that a corporate body like your agency from a foreign state to the state in which I inhabit would have rights to what that man's labor has produced? Can you show me the underlying legal foundation upon which your administration believes they have the authority to enforce such income tax upon the labor of a private man working for a private business? Can you show me the law that constitutes your corporate agency to extort money from my labor rates? I can assure you that no law exists that requires a private man of we the people to pay upon something to which he does not owe. If that letter was not a mistake, then any further action from your corporate government administrative office would constitute fraud and extortion, violating freedoms and liberties protected. I will file suit in a federal court against your agency and the IRS if any action arises from this to extort or fraud me in any way, as I am exempt from levy. And this is the law. So when they send you a notice of levy, and they usually send it to you just like, like businesses and whatnot. What they'll do is they'll send, this Title 26, right? And what they do is they start off with, so it'll say Title 26, Section 6331, subsection, and it starts with subsection B, right? Well, where did A go, right? Well, A is the important part, right? So A says, A is levy and distraint, right? Says levy may be made upon the accrued salary or wages of any officer, employee, or elected official of the United States, the District of Columbia, or any agency or instrumentality of the United States or District of Columbia, by serving a notice of levy on the employer of such officer, employee, or elected official. Now, I don't work for the government, and I know that 90% of people don't work for the government either. We are not subject to their income tax. Now, where does it say that a private individual working for a private business is required to be extorted from the fruits of his labor? I expect a rebuttal of this letter within 10 days of receiving. Failure to do so would be an agreement of the facts raised in this letter. And of course, UCC 1-308 without prejudice. If you don't know what that means, that's very, very important. Anytime you sign anything with these people, anything, it's a contract. And there is duties, obligations that come with that contract, and whether they prejudice any of your rights or not. So when you sign with UCC 1-308, without prejudice, you're saying basically, okay, so I'm signing this contract, but if any part of this contract were to violate any of my protected rights, then I am not subject to the performance. I don't have to perform whatever that is, right? So so when you sign for your driver's license, you're saying, I will abide by all the laws and regulations that come along with this license, right? Even though, it's already a constitutionally protected activity. So you're basically signing off all your constitutional rights in exchange for duties, obligations, and privileges that can be, taken away at will when you already have the right to do that. It makes absolute no sense to me. But that's the government. They've dumbed the people down to the point that they don't even know the basic fundamental rights that we have. Okay? So I got a response back the very next day, which I was really, really surprised that it was so fast, right? They said, we are in receipt of your email and this response you requested. The Ohio Revised Code, Section 718, provides information for municipal income tax, and IRS states the following. Congress used the power granted by the Constitution, the 16th Amendment. Now, I only, the first 10 amendments, I support. Anything after that is created by a corporate body, that wasn't ratified by the people. I can tell you that. There's certain laws there are certain amendments that I do not support. I don't support the 16th Amendment. I don't support the 14th Amendment. I don't support the 13th Amendment. The fact that they never abolished slavery bothers me. They just made it so that they were the only ones that could have slaves. And that's why they created this system of victimless crimes, so they can sell your body into slavery by your bond. Your birth certificate is a bond, and that's what they use. It's missed. I'm getting off track, but the rabbit hole's deep, guys. I mean, there's a lot that you don't know. You've been kept in the dark, and it's just unlawful. And made laws requiring all individuals to pay tax. Congress has delegated the IRS the responsibility of administering tax laws, known as the Internal Revenue Code. The code and found in Title 26 of the United States Code, right? Which I already know that. I've done put that in my. No, you are a Lima resident and an employee of a business operating in the state of Ohio. Negative, I was not. The city of Lima also has tax code in the city ordinance, chapter 880, which can be found on the city of Lima's website at blah, blah, blah. Okay. And this was from Kimberly Adams, right? So, again, I responded. Now, my response was, well, hello, Kimberly. Thank you for your timely response to my email. However, I would not be a citizen of the corporation of the United States without some sort of contract resulting in a meeting of the minds. The United States is not a government. It hasn't been a government since it was dissolved under the Bankruptcy Act in 1933. The United States exists only today by name. The Federal Reserve is a private bank owned by foreign powers. All United States citizens and the property of those citizens are held as collateral to the Federal Reserve. Okay? We'll just listen to this real quick.
A lot of people think that the Federal Reserve is already part of the government. They're not. It's controlled by cliques of unelected, unaccountable bankers meeting in secret Most of these people have never even been through the formality of a Senate hearing or a Senate confirmation. They claim that they're part of the U.S. Government. They masquerade as if they were part of the U.S. government. But in reality, this is a purely private operation. Jackals, hyenas, raptors, all of them loyal, not to the American people, but to the Wall Street banks, which is where most of them come from.
1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed, floor of the House, where 3 members of Congress were on the floor. At that time, they only needed a majority of votes to pass it. So in 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed. 20 years later, 1933, under Roosevelt, the United States was declared bankrupt. And in 1933, the Federal Reserve private bank says, okay, USA, what are you going to pledge as collateral on the debt you owe me? What happened by 1936? Does anybody know? We instituted Social Security system, and you and I and our children and our children's children were pledged as collateral on the debt of our government to the Federal Reserve. And that's where we're at today. It took 20 years to make this country bankrupt, and since then, our government has operated under emergency powers of our government. It is not the president that makes a decision in this country. It's the Secretary of Treasury who turns around and is put in there by the Federal Reserve to manage the bankruptcy. We've been in bankruptcy ever since. So to print $700 billion and to give it away, how do they get away with it? The manager of the bankruptcy is told by the Federal Reserve this is the way to go. That's where we're at today.
Pretty messed up, guys. Now, we, the people, are a sovereign people, right? So how does a sovereign, one subject to nobody, and you can't be subject to something you create. So we, the people, had created this government for the welfare of us, right? So how does somebody that has created something be subject to what he had created? And to deprive the people of their sovereignty, it is first necessary to get the people to agree to submit to the authority of the entity that they have created. This is done by getting them to claim they are citizens of that entity, right? So there's a hierarchy in how things operate, right? So God created man. This is how the Constitution was drafted. So whether you agree with me does not matter. It's not going to change the fact of how this country was created. Okay? God created man. Man's subject to God. God's not subject to man because God created man, right? So man creates Constitution. Constitution creates government, right? So the government can't change the Constitution no more than we can change God. Okay? The government is subject to the Constitution. That's why we made it, is to govern how they act and treat the people, right? Well, the government then decided they're going to create corporations. So we allow them to govern commerce, right? Interstate commerce and all that, right? Well, why don't we? So they were like, okay, so corporations then created citizens. So you got God, you got man, you got Constitution, government, corporations, and citizens way down here. Now, because the corporate government had created citizens, the citizens are subject to that government. Now, they say that the sovereignty of the people is given to the states, and that's only partly true. So how do you know who's sovereign and who's not? Well, that's very, very simple. Okay, so a sovereign is the utmost supreme power. There's no higher authority than the sovereign. And you're not subject to nobody but God. Okay, so only God can tell me what to do, and I live by God's law, which is natural law or common law. It's common sense. If you cause a loss, injury, or harm to another person, then you've created a crime. But in this corporate view of the citizen, You're subject to this administrative codes and statutes, which are not law. They're corporate policy of the corporation, right? So, where am I going with it? So you have the people that are sovereign, right? So how do you know who gives their sovereignty to the state? Because the state is the people, right? So the ones that give their sovereignty to the state are the ones that serve the people. So these corporate entities, these government officials, your police officers, your judges, and they all serve the people. You cannot be sovereign and serve. You give up your sovereignty to serve the people who are sovereign. But they try to act like they're sovereign and the people are not. And that's not how things go. And it's just absolutely ridiculous that they think that this is the way it is. Oh, man. Okay, so anyways, let me get back to this letter, okay? Federal Reserve is a private bank owned by foreign powers. All United States citizens are held as collateral to the Federal Reserve. There is nothing federal about the Federal Reserve. Citizens don't own anything. The Federal Reserve owns everything. The IRS is only a collection arm of the Federal Reserve. So the IRS is a private business of the Federal Reserve. There's nothing government about them. So for the United States corporate government to say that they have the authority to do this is absolutely untrue. Okay, so contracts with corporations must be entered into knowingly with full disclosure of the terms and conditions. And no one has made us aware of the terms and conditions of these contracts that we have signed. So they are in sense null and void. I am one of the people. I am not a resident of corporate Lima, of the corporate state of Ohio. Now there's statutes and codes are not law. They would be called laws if they were laws. Statutes and codes are a policy of the corporate entities. All persons are subject to corporate policy. Okay, persons. But you must understand that a person is a legal fiction, a corporate entity. I am a man, a non-resident alien of a foreign state, and not subject to the jurisdiction of any such corporate policy. See, there's two of every state. There is two national governments at play here. So, okay, so how can I explain that best so you can understand? Okay, so the state of Ohio is a state within Ohio State. So the state of Ohio is the corporate state. Ohio State is the national state, okay? And so wherever you put yourself in jurisdiction of, that's why anything that comes from the government is from the state of Ohio or the state of New Hampshire, because it's all corporate based, okay? Are you aware that there are two national governments at play in this nation and that there are two of every state? This is not anything that I have made up because I wish or want it to be true, but these are the words of the highest court in this land that upholds the supreme law of this land. I don't really want to drag this out into a big ordeal, as I already have enough on my plate with a federal lawsuit against Lima Police Department. So, here's what I'll do. I am not a debtor, but the beneficial priority security interest holder in all title, property, and collateral, both registered and unregistered, belonging to the trust estate, Michael Zisler. The sole beneficiary to the trust registered with the with the Ohio State Secretary of Treasury. Okay? Oh, notice I put Ohio State, not State of Ohio. Okay. Upon proof that such a contract exists, makes me a subject, an imbecile, that has not reached age of majority and lacking in sound mind, which defines U.S. citizens, according to the United States. That's what the United States sees a citizen. You know what I mean? And that's why when you go into their corporate courts, they say you have to have somebody speak for you because you're incompetent to speak for yourself. That's why you need a defense lawyer, and they always give you a public defender because it's a checkout line, man. They're just getting you in and getting you out, and the public defender's there for the state just to get you to plea out so that they can just move you on. If you ever been to the court here recently, you'll see it's in and out, and it's nuts, dude. It's like checkout at Walmart. Where am I at? Okay. United States. Then, upon proof of claim of such a contract, I will not dispute the facts. Provide me with a bill of the amount claiming to be owed for my inspection and execution, and I will exercise my exemption under UCC 3-303 and accept it for value and return it for value for settlement and closure of the accounting. Failure to produce that document would not constitute discharge. Therefore, our business will be concluded. I hope you have a blessed day. Again, without prejudice, all right? So if you're wondering what UCC 3-303 is, you must understand that there are, what's the word I'm looking for? There are rights that people have even in the corporate business, right? UCC 3-303 is, okay, so you notice I said I will accept it for value and return it for value. Okay, so accepted for value right here. No, it's value and consideration. Okay, accepted for value is a commercial right that is obtained through instruments such as tax bills and violation tickets. It is a qualified endorsement or modified signature on an instrument. An instrument is a bill. It's a bill or a violation ticket or something like that, right? So endorsement on an instrument. By accepting an instrument for value, one becomes the holder in due course of the instrument and can enforce the instrument on the issuer. Okay? So this is our remedy that they owe us for all of this massive fraud that they have portrayed on the people. This is the remedy. They have to give us a remedy. He who brings a claim must bring the remedy. Okay? So right here it says, as per UC 3-303, an instrument is issued or transferred for value if. And then right here is where I would apply. Right here is 3. An instrument is issued or transferred as payment of or as security for, and this is like a past. This means past. A past claim against any person, whether or not the claim is due. Okay, so it's an exemption that the people have, right? And so you can exercise that with any kind of bill, or, well, not any bill, but any corporate bill from the government. You can't accept for value anything from a private business or anything like that, because you're dealing with a private person. You have to pay them. But when you're talking about banks and mortgages and anything corporate like that, and this is all because they did away with the gold clause. The gold clause, you know what I mean? They when they robbed the entire nation, when they banned anyone from having $100 worth of gold on their person, they made you turn it into the bank, right? The only lawful money there was. They made you turn it into the bank and issued you worthless paper in exchange for anything that had any real value. They robbed the entire nation. It's just nuts, dude. So because of that, they made House Joint Resolution 192, which gives us the ability to discharge debt. All debts are now dischargeable. We're not to have any debt. None. And this is one of the remedies for that. Now, they're not, no one's ever going to tell you this because, they're not at liberty to disclose, what the remedy is, and they're not even going to talk about it amongst themselves, and they may play stupid. But it's all right here. UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. That's what governs them. That's their book. So, they can't deny it. But I have been waiting for a response from this letter, and it's 2 days ago, and I haven't gotten one yet. So I will keep you posted on what is happening with this. But I'm telling you, man, it's a whore pimp relationship. I don't have to pay you, for me to work, man. Me to work is a right. It's a fundamental right, and you can't tax a right. You can't, it's unlawful. And just think about it like the whore pimp relationship, man. Because if I'm the whore and you're saying that I can work, and you are owed a percentage of my wages. I can understand that, I guess, but if it's not legal for them, how the crap can it be legal for the government? You know what I mean? If it's illegal for man to do, it's because you know what it is? It's because they call it something different. Like when they steal your property and hold it for ransom. Oh, that's not what's happening. It's called being impounded. No, that's exactly the same thing. You just call it a different word so that you claim it's lawful. It's absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, I hope you guys found some useful information here, and I hope God bless, and y'all have a blessed day. Peace.